Hello everyone, this is David A. Cox with PCClassesOnline.com, and today we are going to be discussing the Ken Burns effect using iMovie 2014, also known as iMovie 5. It's version 5, but came out in 2014. And this is a great little trick that you can use to create something that's a little bit more than a slideshow. You can use this with your friends, family, or if you have a small business. A lot of people will use this to create their own little online web commercial. So to do this, we are only going to be using iMovie, nothing else. But one of the things I always like to do for the people who sign up for our classes or watch our videos on YouTube is I'd like to always give you a few little extras, something that you wouldn't get if you had walked into an Apple store, if you could understand the people who were teaching them, because there's so much chaos going on in those stores. So the tricks that I wanted to give you, I'm going to tell you right off the bat. When you're using this kind of a technique, when you're going to be creating this kind of interactive video that has a story behind it, you need background music. And if you want to ultimately take your project and put it on something like either YouTube or Facebook, if you use copywritten music, they can take it down. And the last thing you want to do is put a ton of time and effort and passion into your video only to have it taken down because you used the wrong piece of music. So I want to give you 3 different sources that you can use to get copyright-free music. The first are 2 different websites. One is by incompetech.com. You'll see the address spelled out on your screen right now. The second is danosongs.com. Now, the third location I'm going to show you in a little bit. The Mac actually comes pre-installed with quite a bit of copyright-free music. One of the things you should know is that if you use one of the Mac songs that comes built into it and they flag your account because they think it's copywritten, you can challenge it. I've had that happen to myself, even though I know it's open, it's for public domain. They have still flagged it in the past. You just simply argue it and you win every single time. So let's get over how to actually create the Ken Burns effect. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Ken Burns, he's an Academy Award-winning filmmaker and documentarian, and the way he creates his projects is they start off as photos, usually older photos, and for example, he will start with a wide shot, maybe of a family, and slowly zoom in on one individual. And while he's doing that, he has voiceover, he has music, and creates an entire story out of these otherwise just plain photos. And you can do all the same things that he can using nothing more than iMovie. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, have your photos organized. One tip I would like to give you is I strongly recommend taking your photos and having all of the ones you're going to be using for this project in an album in iPhoto. If you don't know how to do that, of course, we have a class on it. Go to our website at PCClassesOnline.com and just look for one of our classes on iPhoto. Also, you're going to want to do the same thing for any other music. So if you have copyright-free music that you would like to use, you can import it into iTunes. All those little applications talk to iMovie. One of the questions we received from someone was, what if they wanted to do really custom work in terms of voiceover and sound effects? One of the things you can do is you can actually put all of your music and even voiceover work together in GarageBand. And GarageBand does talk to iMovie. So let's get started. When you open up iMovie, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to File and create a new movie. Now, they have different templates here, or as they're referred to in iMovie, themes, which will give it a different look. These can get very cheesy very quickly. We're not going to use any of those today. Today, we're just going to go with no theme. Double-click and name your project and hit OK. Now, from here, we can start to add our content. Let me go over first, though, what these different boxes actually mean. The most important one is the one down here at the bottom that takes up the majority of the screen here. That is called your timeline. That is where all of your footage is going to go. That's where everything comes together. Up here at the top right of my screen, you have your preview window. So as you move your cursor over different types of footage, you're going to see a preview of what it looks like in this box. Finally, over here on the left-hand side, we have our different events. Now, one of the questions we got during today's class was from someone who wanted to know the difference between a project and an event. Examples of an event would be one event, for example, may be my trip to the beach with my friends. Another might be sitting in a park watching the 4th of July fireworks. They're all different places and times. Whereas a project would be my school project, my video for grandma. Those are different types of videos that you're going to be composing. And you can pull footage from multiple events into different projects. So that's another thing to be aware of. So let's start with getting the photos. If you look here at the top left of my screen, we have an immediate shortcut that goes right into iPhoto. And if you look here at the top left of this box, you can access your different events, faces, albums. If you connect it in with Facebook, you can actually pull photos from there, or iCloud. In my case, I have created an album of photos called iMovie Demo. So let's double click on that. And here we have all the different photos that we can work with. Now you can drag these either one at a time into your timeline, or you can drag them in groups. One of the things I would like to go over briefly, we've gone over in some of our past classes. It is a basic thing that everyone should know, but it's important. I want to show you how to select multiple items. This applies to iMovie, iPhoto, the Mail program on the Mac. It's the entire computer. Sometimes when you want to do something, you want to do it to more than just one object at a time. So let's go over that. If instead of dragging one photo at a time, maybe I want to drag this photo, and I want to drag this photo, and I want to drag this photo. If there's no order, the way you would do it is you would click on the first, then hold down the Command key. And then you're going to click on all those other individual shots that you want to add in. And you'll notice that as I'm doing this, it's highlighting each one. It's putting a little yellow box around them. When you have them all highlighted, you can actually let go of the Command key. And now with your cursor, you're going to drag and drop them here into your timeline. And they'll stay right there. Now, I'm going to undo that because I want to give you the other ways that you can select multiple items. The next is a list. So if I want to select every photo from here through here, I can click on the first, but this time I'm going to hold the Shift key. Then click on the last, and you'll notice that every photo in between is now selected. The final way is Select All. The universal command for Select All is to hold the Command key and tap the letter A. Just think, A for all. So now every photo we have here has been selected. Let's do that actually, and we're going to drag all of these right now into our timeline. So we have those all there. Now by default, all of these shots right now are 4 seconds long, and you'll see that as I skim through the project, that's what this process is called, you can see it's already added a little bit of the Ken Burns effect to each shot, where it's zooming in or zooming out. It doesn't get really creative, it's a very, very basic in or out. With this process of what we're going to do, you can really change the camera movements. You can start in one section of the photo and end up in another section. So the next thing we're going to do, I wanted to mention if you want to include video, you can do that in this process. You just add that in after adding in your photos. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add in a little bit of music. Now for this, I'm going to go here to the bottom left corner, and here you can see here I have iTunes, and here's my entire iTunes library. I have this track right here which I planned on using. I'm just going to drag it right here to the very bottom of my timeline. It sort of snaps in just like that. Now the other place that I had made reference to in the beginning of this video where you can get copyright-free music is right here in sound effects. This is a combination of just simple sound effects like, for example, a can opener, but also they have things like music. In this process, it's referred to technically as jingles. So what I would recommend doing is clicking where it says genre, so it'll organize it by genre, and you can scroll down, it's in alphabetical order, and here we have all the different jingles. They're all different lengths, from as long as a couple of minutes long to only a few seconds long. So you can go through there if you want another source for copyright-free music. A lot of people who do these kind of videos for their business, you really don't want the video to be over a minute long. You want it to be like a standard commercial. So for that, this music is perfect. Now that we've added the music, we can start to add things like titles. And there are two different ways that you can add titles. You can either layer it on top of your photo or video, or you can have it in front of a background. Most people who use a background just simply use a black background. I'm going to show you both ways. So for that, we're going to go over here once again to the bottom left of the screen, and we're going to click on Titles. And what you can do is put your cursor on any of these. A little trick I always recommend doing is tap the space bar. And what you'll do is you'll see a preview over here in the box to the right with what it looks like. So in this one, it's just kind of a subtle effect. It slowly grows. But you can click on some of these others here. Some of them get to be a little bit more animated than others. When you find the one that you want, all you have to do, if you want to apply it to a clip, drag it and drop it on top of the clip. Or if you want it to be instead on its own, for example, in front of a black background, you can see kind of how that looks right there. Whereas if you want it to be in front of a background, you're going to drag it to the side of the clip. And when you do that, I'm going to do it and hold it. You see how we have that big purple bar right there? That just means that it's independent, okay? And if you want to change the background, if you look down here, the next item in Content Library is Maps and Backgrounds. That's where you would go for that. But we're not going to go over that right now. We're just going to use a black background in this case. Now, all these photos are from where I live. In my opinion, one of the most beautiful places on earth, Provincetown, Massachusetts, at the very, very tip of Cape Cod. So for my title, that's what I'm going to title it. So to do that, we're going to double click here in this purple box. And now I can type in whatever text I want and lock it in by hitting the Enter key. Okay. So we have that now. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to add a few different transitions. Because right now, all of these shots just go cut, 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 cut. Now we're going to make it so that it has a little bit of a smoother flow to it. And to do that, we're going to use transitions. Once again, bottom left of your screen here under Content Library, it's the very first item. And just like you can with titles, you can click on any of these boxes, tap the space bar. Oops, sorry, that was the clip. And you'll see what that transition is going to look like. And you can check out the other ones they have here. I tend to recommend to people to stick to this top row. Once you get to some of these others here, like spin in and swap, yeah, it's kind of cool, but it gets cheesy really quickly. It can also distract people from your project because they start to focus on the transitions when they should be focusing on the content. A lot of kids will use that in a lot of their projects. So now that we have, I got to show you how to apply these. So if you want to add a cross dissolve, let's say between the first two shots, you're just going to simply drag it and drop it in between the two shots, and it will stick there. It's that little bow tie. And not always are you going to want this transition to only be 1 second long. And if I actually leave my cursor on it, you'll see that's what it says. If you want to change the length, you're going to simply double click. And now if you look at the very top left of the preview window, it says 1.0 seconds. If you want to make it a little bit longer, just as if it were text, click into it, tap 2 if I want to make it 2 seconds, and hit the Enter or Return key, and it locks it in. So now that transition is going to be just a little bit smoother. Now, just like how you can make the transition longer, you can do the same thing for your photos. So for that, let's say this first photo, now that I've added a transition, it's not even 3 seconds long, or it is 3 seconds long, sorry. Maybe I want to make that shot a little bit longer. For that, just double click, and you can see here at the very top right, it says duration 3 seconds. We're going to edit that, and let's for this make it 8 seconds long. And now, again, hit the Return or Enter key. So now you'll see it kind of adjusts everything to make room for it. And so now I can really take my time with that first shot. And you can do that with any of these here. So you don't probably want to keep every single shot the same length. It's good to mix it up, especially if you start to talk about one of these images. You're really going to want to stretch it out so that you can have time to give your voiceover. The next thing is the actual Ken Burns effect. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this shot right here. So give me 1 second. I'm going to change the length of the clip by double-clicking on it. And instead of 4 seconds, we're going to make it 12 seconds and lock that in. For this shot, what we're going to do is we're going to start off close on the American flag, and then we're going to slowly pull back. Okay? To do this, you're going to need to double click on your shot, which I've already done. And you'll see that above the preview window, we have this little symbol right here. That is the universal symbol for cropping. So you can click on that, and you'll see that we have 3 different ways that we can technically crop this shot. You can use the fit, crop, or Ken Burns. Okay? Fit means it's going to kind of stretch it to fill the whole screen. Crop means that you're going to have a little box here, and it's going to just crop to that box. And Ken Burns is, of course, what we're doing today. Apparently, Ken did such a great job with the effect. He coined his own term that's what it's actually called. So for this, we have 2 different boxes. We have one that has a solid line that's called start, and one with a dotted line called end. And what you can do is you can adjust these shots however you want. So for example, with the start box, which is the bigger one in this case, you can put your cursor at the corner and drag it in. So now we're making it kind of zoom in. And I can click in the middle and now move the shot so that it really is focused just on that flag. Now to adjust where the shot ends, click in the outer box, which is end, and now you can drag this to be as big as you want it and reposition it. Okay, let's go actually just a little bit bigger. Try to get that fence in there. And that's it. If you hit the enter key or return key, you'll lock it in. And now let me show you what that shot looks like. So it's pretty cool. And by the way, if you go and do that and you notice that the video is a little bit choppy, don't worry about it. It's just editing. When you do this and you finally produce your video, whether you're going to create a DVD or send it to YouTube, that will be a very smooth transition. The next thing we're going to talk about is adding your voiceover to it. Now, the menu for where voiceover is very strange and it's very hidden. So instead, I'm going to just give you a shortcut. V. You're going to tap the V key on your keyboard. An important thing I always like to bring up at this point is that the microphone built into your Mac is not designed for voiceover work. It's designed for FaceTime calls, Skype calls, etc. So I always recommend getting an actual microphone. The one that I happen to use, a lot of people seem to think is a $1,000 microphone. It's not. It's actually $49. And if you want to buy it and support us, you can find it in the PC Classes Online store. Just go to pcclassesonline.com. There's a button at the top called Store. And on the left-hand side of that page, there is a category called Miscellaneous Gadgets. You'll find it right in there. It's usually right around $49, $50, somewhere in thereabouts. And just plug the mic into your computer. By the way, it's called the Snowball. That's the name of it. Plug it into your computer. There's no drivers that you need to install or anything like that. First thing you're going to want to do is click here on this little button here. This is your voiceover settings. Make sure that the input source is correct. So in my case, I'm doing Blue Snowball. You can increase or decrease your volume right off the bat. I find that if I kick it up just like about 30, 40%, it tends to do a little bit of a better job. So I'll go maybe just a little bit more than that. Now this bottom option here is to mute the project. Because what it's going to do is it's going to play the video and you're just going to talk to add the voiceover. Now, some people, when they do voiceover work, do a better job if they're using headphones. And if you're using headphones, you can play the project music in your headset while you're giving your vocal. I like to do that myself when I do commercial work. So in that case, you can uncheck this option. But obviously, if you are using your computer speakers, you don't want it to be playing the music because then the microphone is recording not only your voice, but it's re-recording the music and you're going to get a distorted echo effect. So for now, I'm going to keep that on check because I don't have my headphones with me right now. From here, what you can do is you can take this white bar. By the way, that little white bar is referred to as the playhead. And you can move it to wherever you want your vocal. Oops, sorry. You can move it to wherever you want your vocal to come in. Let's just move it right here. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's go back here at the very beginning of the project. Okay. From there, all you have to do is click on this little microphone icon. Now, you'll notice that as I'm speaking right now, that little green element, it's going up and down. So if I shut up for a second, it goes all the way out. But you want to notice if it goes yellow, it means that you're being a little bit too loud. So you want to try to make sure that this stays in the green. When you're ready, all you have to do is click on this button to start recording. It is going to rewind your project by 3 seconds, and then it's going to give you a countdown. So it's going to go 3, 2, 1, and then you can just start speaking. When you're done, tap the space bar to end. So let's just improv something real quick. In 1995, I took my very first trip to Provincetown, Massachusetts. Little did I know that this beautiful, quaint seaside community would one day become my home. Not so bad for an improv. Now, if you look here at my vocal, you can see there are a few little points where it goes into the yellow, and I think there's actually a couple little parts here where it goes into the red. Anytime you want to adjust the volume, all you have to do is put your cursor in the middle of this little green file here, and you can just drag down. I find that when I do it, I end up doing it a little too much. Let's just go down to 79%. So now we have some in the yellow. Yellow is okay. It's when it gets into the red that it gets to be a bit of a problem. And what's nice about the way that iMovie does this is it's automatically, you can actually see it right here graphically. It fades down your music, fades up your vocal, and then when you're done, it fades in the music and fades down your vocal. Just makes it a lot easier. And you can do this as many times as you want. So you could play your voiceover here, maybe have a few seconds of music, and then come back in later on in the project. So let's just hear how that sounds right now. In 1995, I took my very first trip to Provincetown, Massachusetts. Little did I know that this beautiful, quaint seaside community would one day become my home. It was probably pretty hard for you guys to hear that because you're hearing it through my microphone, not my speakers. So please forgive that part of it. But it sounded pretty good. I might actually even go back up just a little bit because the voiceover was a little bit low, but you can adjust that as needed. Another thing I want to show you how to do is how to transition the audio on your own. So let's use this song right here. Maybe you don't want the song to just boom, come in out of nowhere. Maybe you want to transition it in, especially if you're going from clip to clip. So the way you do this is you see that little green circle to the left of my cursor with a little black dot. You can grab that with your mouse and drag it over, and you'll see that as it does it, it creates this curve. That curve is the fade in. So if I leave it right there, for example, it's going to take 3.9 seconds to reach full volume. So if I do that, let's just hear how it sounds. Again, it's going to be a little tough for you guys to hear. So it wasn't bad. Okay, a couple other things I want to go over here is how to actually cut audio. So if you scroll down here, let's go to the end of this clip. Maybe I want to fade out this music and then transition in a new song. The way you would do that is you put your cursor at the very end of the clip, and when you do that, see how I get those two arrows pointing in opposite directions? Well, you're going to click down and just drag to the left. So now it's cutting in by 32 seconds. Okay? And I can still add transition. Just take that little dot, drag it over. I could drop in a second song here, so I can fade down one song while I fade in another song. Just a nice trick I want to make sure you knew how to do. Let's see here. Another thing I want to go over here for you is how to move these different shots. It's very, very simple. Let's say I go through this project and I realize, you know what? I don't really want to start with that shot. I have a better shot. What you can do is take your better shot. Let's take this one right here. This is a shot I took at night. And just drag it and drop it. Oops, sorry. When I do this, I have a very large cursor for teaching purposes. Drop it into the number one position, and you can see it moved the other shot over. And now I could, of course, double click on it. Let's move the voiceover over, so it's now on that shot. Okay, oops, sorry about that. Okay, so we've got our shots there. Now when you're done with your project and you have it all good to go, the next thing that you're probably going to want to do is to share it with your friends. And there are quite a few different things that you can do here. One of the things I'd like to give as again, a little bonus tip is we have a class that we produced only last week, as of today's date, of course, called Toast 11. Toast is a great piece of software, and the reason why I recommend it is because I don't recommend iDVD. iDVD is a piece of software that used to come with the Mac. Some of you who have had a Mac for a while may notice it on your computers. If you have a new computer, you won't find it there because it's no longer supported. And frankly, that's probably a good thing because iDVD was very kind of slapped together. It didn't give you a whole lot of options. You had to have a menu, and it didn't look that good. Toast is a great piece of software. It's very versatile. You can do tons of different things with it in terms of creating not just a DVD, but hey, you can create a Blu-ray disc. You do need a Blu-ray plug-in to do that and a Blu-ray player, burner rather. But there are many different types of things you can do with Toast. So if that's the kind of thing you're looking to do, I strongly recommend that you check out that video of ours. Of course, you'll find it on pcclassesonline.com. Now, the other things that you can do here, let's go to the top and let's go to File. You'll notice that it is no longer referred to as Export. It's now referred to as Share. Here are the different things you can do. You can send this final project to iMovie Theater. That is used primarily with Apple TV. So if you have Apple TV, you may have noticed that you have an app built in called Theater, and it's just a way you can take your video project, put it on the cloud, and play it on your television. I don't even know why email is an option, because unless your video clip is a whopping 5 seconds long, it's going to be too big for email. Most people who would theoretically want to email their video instead should be posting it to something like either YouTube, Facebook, or creating a file and storing it in one of the services that allow you for cloud storage like Dropbox or Google Drive. iTunes is the option you want to select if you want your video to end up on your iPad, iPhone, or iPod Touch. YouTube, yes, you can send this directly to YouTube. One little tip I want to give you about that, this came up during our class. Sometimes when you share a video to YouTube, you may not want the whole world to see your video. Well, if that's the case, here you can find the options to make this video viewable by either only a private audience, meaning they are going to have to be invited. Unlisted means that you are going to have to copy and paste a URL into an email, and only the people with that direct address are going to be able to view it, or public. Okay? You can also choose the size of your video project. I always recommend keeping it on 1080p. That's full high definition. Going back here, you can also find options to send it to Facebook, Vimeo. If you have something that's newsworthy, you can send it directly to CNN through their CNN iReport. And File. If you want to burn a DVD, this is what I would recommend. If you create a file, you can do the most different things with it. You can also here tweak the size. Again, I recommend 1080p. You can rename your project. So if your project name isn't what you want the file to be, you can here type in and change it to whatever you want. And when you click next, it's going to ask you where would you like to save this project. So you can save it anywhere in your computer, whether it's the Documents folder, the desktop, or your Downloads folder. And that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you happen to be watching us right now on YouTube and you've enjoyed it, please click that little like button. It's sort of like giving us a little tip every time you click that button. Also, if you have never heard of PC Classes Online before, we are a completely free organization. You can find out more on our website at pcclassesonline.com. This is David A. Cox, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.